सामने से बात करता है 3 सेकंड 4 सेकंड। और सुनिए जिस टॉपिक को चर्चा करने वाले मैं शायद उस कॉन्फ्रेंस वही चीज है टॉपिक हो चुका है। ये कौन सा ग्रुप है? हाइपर नहीं सर देखो तुम्हारे लोग ही लोग हैं ये आपसे ये लोग चलिए चलो हेलो
Hello.
Hello.
Sir, who is speaking?
Yes. Yes. Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Murala. Due to this some technical, we just lost the net from last 10-15 minutes at whole triple IT Allahabad. Okay. So now am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Murala, Dr. Murala, are you able to share your PPT or not? You just check it so that we can start now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I already checked and I am able to check. No. Right now you
Okay.
have.
Okay.
Please make me.
So now I welcome Dr. Yes. So we may start now. Already we.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can start.
Okay. Upendra? Upendra, are you here? Okay. So I welcome Dr. S. Murala for this session. And currently Dr. S. Murala is working as Associate Professor in IIT Ropar. And his area of interests are machine learning, deep learning, and computer vision. Dr. Murala is today going to talk about this generative adversarial network and its application. So I welcome again Dr. S. Murala, and now it's over to you to start your talk. Dr. Murala, please.
Yeah. Thank you for the introduction, sir. And good morning, all. Let me share this presentation. Yeah. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, visible.
Yes, sir. Yes. Okay. So in today's lecture, I'm going to discuss about the deep generative models for computer vision applications. Like first, I will explain in this lecture how the base of this particular deep learning, these particular generative models have started, and further how we can utilize this particular for this model for the various applications. In that, I'm going to discuss one application, that is haze removal task, and it can be further extended for various tasks, like all regression problems can be dealt with generative models, uh, generative adversarial networks, or GANs. So here, as we are having limited time, that's why I'm just going to discuss in detail about the haze removal task. And if you need more concepts and how to deal other applications of computer vision using GANs, you can go through my website, and we are working on other problems also, like moving object detection, single image depth estimation, image in painting, and motion magnification, and also we are working on super resolutions. So image super resolution. So you can go through those papers, and you can understand how can we utilize these generative models for the computer vision, especially we can use this for regression problems, not for any classification problems. So generative models are not can be used for the uh, classification problem. Now coming to the topic. So in this topic, in this lecture, I'm just starting with on autoencoders, like where it is originated, the generation or generative models, where it was actually originated from autoencoders. So maybe this content, whatever the lecture I am giving, it may be repetition because I have given 2-3 places the same content. So maybe you have attended those lectures also. It may be a kind of repetition for you. So no problem. If you feel repetition, you can ask more questions, or if you are having knowledge on this, we can have more interactive session also. So however, I'm assuming that majority of participants are not means they did not attend my lecture, previous other lectures. That's my assumption, and based on that I'm starting this lecture. And coming to the autoencoders case, before starting these autoencoders, I will just discuss about these 5 points, like supervised learning, unsupervised learning, semi-supervised learning, classification, and regression. So I just wanted to give what are the differences between one with other, and what exactly one can be defined, how we can define this. So supervised learning, I think if you are already having some core knowledge or domain knowledge of computer vision or maybe machine learning, definitely you can explain what is called supervised learning. So supervised learning is nothing but whenever you are training your network, so that time if you are training that data with appropriate labels or corresponding labels to the input, or maybe ground truth to the input if you are having, so then we call it as a supervised learning. Let's see, if I'm going with face recognition classification problem, so that time I should know that just so that time I should know that for example, corresponding face, what should be the category or class of that. Means recognition, like when I give my face, I should give the label, this is Murala. So like that, if I am training my network with appropriate labels or ground truth, then we when we call that particular learning procedure is called supervised learning. Otherwise, if we don't have any ground truth, then we call it as unsupervised learning. If you train the data only input, and there is no specific target or ground truth, means answer you should get, but you are not giving ground truth while training. So that particular class, I mean, that kind of learning procedure, we call it as unsupervised learning. Let's say if you take the example like clustering algorithms, uh, like k-mean clustering or fuzzy c-mean clustering, if you take, there actually it doesn't involve any kind of learning, but it also involves different iterations. So where in these different iterations you want to optimize the clustering concept, like if you are having image, and in this image you want to divide this into regions or clusters. So that time we just need to give input is how many clusters you want to make in this particular content. That's it. We are not even at the time of training, we are not providing any kind of ground truth. That's why we call that particular procedure is called unsupervised procedure. So in the same manner, self-organized map, this kind of algorithms, learning-based algorithms also there with unsupervised procedure. And next one is semi-supervised procedure. So it is neither fully supervised nor fully unsupervised. It is in between. Means if I am having, let's say one video is there and 100 frames are there in this video. So I'm having label or ground truth of first and maybe second, or only first frame label is with me, or maybe only out of 100 I'm having few number of frames labels and other labels are not with me. So that time we need to go with the limited supervised procedure, means limited data of ground truth. That particular procedure we call it as semi-supervised learning procedure. Okay. Now coming to the fourth one is a classification. Classification is a very straightforward field. Like everyone knows, I think, I want to I want to get the class of that particular input sample. Class is nothing but category. If I go for the face recognition, class of that particular input sample, if I give my photograph, I should get that name is Murala. That face recognition case, it should recognize as a Murala. So if it can recognize it properly, like saying by Murala of my photograph, then we can call it as a correct classification. If it says other, then it is a misclassification. I mean that classification is not appropriate. We can say it is a mismatch. And now here one understanding is that in classification, we are just saying that it belongs to what box. So we are just saying here we are using like what class only. It is coming like you are having n number of classes, means n boxes or n bins are there, and whatever input sample is coming, it belongs to which bin, means it belongs to which particular class. That's all we need to say. Now coming to the regression case, it is not same as the classification. So regression means it is a kind of predicting values. Let's say if I give one example is like weather forecast, like based on the previous one data of Ropar location, and I am having a previous 1 year time to time, like each and every hour, maybe like from every day 24 hours is there. I mean on hour basis I am having the temperature at Ropar, let's say for last 1 year data is with me. So with this entire data I just train my network, and based on this even I can predict tomorrow at 10 a.m. what could be the temperature. It is based on the entire 1 year data, and based on that we can predict. So this is a kind of, and when we are predicting, when I say temperature, temperature is not belongs to kind of any class. It is a kind of values between minus some number to plus some number in terms of centigrade. Generally, it could be in Roper case, the temperature may go up to at most in winter at most up to, in worst situation, up to single digit, and upper scale may be up to 34, 35, or at most maybe 40 degrees centigrade. Like that, even maybe 44, 45 sometimes, like that, within that range only. And that too, this is a floating point number. So it can be 34.5 degrees centigrade, 35.2 degrees centigrade, like that. It is a floating point number. So when you are able to get some number or some kind of variable number, so that particular predictions we call it as regression. Where in classification we are just saying it belongs to what class it is. It belongs to what is the category can be the input. So that probability if we get, that is called classification. And if you get the floating point numbers of like this kind of temperature, we call it as regression problem. If I go with the best example in computer vision, like if I want to generate any image, so that time it is a kind of regression problem only. If I want to generate, means generate when I want to generate the images, so that time values are between 0 to 255. So whatever, if I take the grayscale image, this is m by n size, and I will be having intensities are between 0 to 255. So I need to predict them means that content, appropriate content need to be generated with the content with the values of 0 to 255, and when prediction is happening you may get the floating point numbers also. But when you are if you are storing this as a grayscale image with 8-bit, so 8-bit image, so that time automatically it will make the round off or quantization we call. Let's say if it is 55.2, it will be considered as a 55. So in the same manner, it will work. So that is the main difference between the regression, classification, and other types of learning procedures. Okay. Now coming to the autoencoders. So autoencoders in name itself, actually here I am going to discuss about it is a regression problems. I'm not going to touch any classification problem. I need to predict the content of image, pixel values of the any image. So that's why we call it as generative content, generative models, and it's a kind of regression problem. So in the as name itself is saying that autoencoders, in autoencoder means it is a kind of encoding concept is there, and it's a kind of decoding concept is there. So that's why these autoencoders are divided into two parts, like encoding module and other one is a decoding module, where this is an input. Here we are giving input, and then it is first performing the input. Yes, please. Any questions? Any questions?
Kindly participant unmute yourself.
Yeah, please mute yourself.
Sorry.
Okay.
Those who are, yes.
I think Pramod, please mute yourself. Or if you are having any questions, we can speak. Okay. Okay. And as I said that encoders having two modules. One is encoding module, another one is a decoding module. So in a encoding module, we generally it's a kind of dimension reduction. Initially, autoencoders have proposed for the dimension reduction purpose, so that we will encode with less requirement or less memory, and then it can be decoded back where it is required. So here this is the case, as I said, and this is the input and this is the output. So initially what we target here, let's say this is in the same way. If I want to represent same thing in terms of CNN, so this is input, and I am keeping some in between some layers of convolutions, pooling, and normalization layers, and so on. And similarly here deconvolutions will be there in the decoder block, and deconvolutions and corresponding activation functions, and pooling layers and normalization layers and so on we can use for decoder case. So this is just for representation. And if I represent in this particular procedure in terms of mathematical representation, let's say if I'm saying encoder block is F and decoder block is G. So here now this is Z, X is input and X dash is the output. So now I can represent Z is equal to F of X. It means when I apply some transformations here, some convolution operations I'm performing here, so it is like a sum transformation, that is F. So encoder F is nothing but it is a kind of transformation. So I'm performing. So F of X, it is a Z is coming here, and then if I perform on this also, like G of Z, that is equal to X dash. So overall X dash equal to G of where Z equal to F of X. So we can represent this particular procedure in terms of mathematical representation in terms of functions of F and G. F is a encoding function and G is a decoding function. Okay. And now coming to, as I said, same thing here. Encoder H equal to F of X and decoder R equal to G of H, and same thing can be represented. And now coming to the point, if I'm using in between convolution layers, if I'm just asking one question, convolution is a linear transformation or non-linear transformation? Anybody can answer? Can you please answer anything? Like convolution is a linear transformation or non-linear transformation? So actually convolution has been proposed with the concept of for especially for the LTI systems. So convolution is a linear transformation. Convolution concept is a linear transformation. It is not a non-linear transformation. Reason is that convolution is applicable for only for LTI systems, which means linear time invariant systems. Means when system is linear, then only we can perform it. Means linearity is nothing but when it can able to satisfy the homogeneity and superposition principle. Okay, so but if you use two convolutions one after the other, like this is the one convolution, and on that again I apply another convolution and another convolution. If I apply more than one convolution, if greater than one convolution, if you perform, so then automatically it is non-linear transformation. Reason is that this is linear, it is performed. Again, this is also like x is linear, but x into x means a cascaded one, x square. X square is not a non-linear procedure. So that's why if you use more than one convolutions in cascade manner, then immediately it is a non-linear transformation. Okay. Now coming to this procedure of encoder decoder, as we are using more than one convolution layers in cascading manner, so then we call this particular procedure as nonlinear procedure. Okay, so if I correlate this means even some content whatever I explained, it is in terms of content. We can read this when I share this slides. So actually autoencoder generally for dimensional reduction purpose in future learning, because I said here, let's say here m by n size I have given, but I am getting very less size here, maybe m by maybe m by 4 by n by 4, means I am performing downsample by 4, which is drastically decreasing 1 by 16 times. It is 1 by 16 times data reduction is performing. So in the same manner, it means it is not necessary, just I have given this example. So that's why autoencoders, especially for dimension reduction purpose, and that too it is a deep learning and it works with the deep back propagation base. So again I have this loss function, like let's say if I want to take the problem, so here encoder and this is a decoder, let's say this is an input and this is an output. So in this case, my target is that output should be equal to input. I should generate the output. This is I am giving, but using some convolution operation after performing this, I should able to get same data reproduction. Means the input should be regenerated back to the at the output. So that is the requirement. So don't think like now why it is required, that I will give example why especially data regeneration is important. So means output means input is again regenerating back at the output. That is why it is required. I will explain in later slides, but let me explain here. So this is the condition as it is a dimension reduction. So as a mathematician, dimension reduction, especially well-known algorithm, is a PCA, principal component analysis. Principal component analysis works based on the eigenvalues and eigenvectors calculation, and based on eigenvectors calculation, you will select the eigenvectors which are corresponding to highest eigenvalues, largest eigenvalues. Those will be collected, and we will go for the back reconstruction process, means reverse procedure of that PCA, so that we are getting the more sparse data and it is having less dimensionality. Means it is more means like dimensional reduction is performing here. So this is the PCA is a linear dimension reduction purpose procedure, but now autoencoders are the non-linear dimension reduction algorithm. We can say we can represent this in terms of deep learning with multi-convolution layers. So we can generalize this as non-linear generalization of the PCA, non-linear manner. Okay. So now coming to the, if I explain, this is how it works. Like let's say this is input and this is the output. So when I output target is that it should be regenerated back if I want to regenerate back. So now can you say this is a supervised learning procedure? No, because it doesn't have any specific ground truth. Because you are having input reproduction is only the case, means you are using input as a ground truth. So there is no specific ground truth here, so that we can call this particular procedure as unsupervised learning procedure, unsupervised feature learning with a neural network. Neural network, or it may be deep learning with convolution neural network. So this is the task here. So with this, what will happen? So let me explain why we need to go for I regeneration, means in generation at the output. So in this case, why it is. So if I talk about this again back to the procedure. So here, so if I take this is a data transmission problem. Let's say I am transmitting data from Ropar to Allahabad. So now, as now I am transmitting data because I have shared my presentation here, and you are able to see from all over the world wherever you are. You have logged into this particular link, WebEx link, and you are able to attend my lectures. So what it is doing, this is transmitting this image. My image means like whatever screen I have shared, that data you are able to see at your end. And the quality wise, you are able, if you are able to maintain the quality, so you need to transmit entire content. So for that, if you want to transmit entire content, let's say if you are seeing my screen, this is a as I am transmitting, see here, this is this particular white portion is belongs to this is a uniform region, all are 255 values if it is in terms of image. So instead of transmitting all values, means all 250, this many 255s in that many times, so you transmit one time and you just get just tell how many 255s are there, and it will work like that. Okay, it is a kind of some encoding concept we are performing. Okay, so what I will do using autoencoder, I will perform this convolution, means data regeneration. And if I am giving 100 by 100 here in my screen, let's say it is 1000 by 1000. So my screen size is, let's say, 1000 by 1000 pixels are there in this screen. So what I will do, I will apply dimension detection, and with just getting only 10 by 10, let's say 10 by 10 by 10. Let's say here 10 is this 10 is number of channels in the convolution CNN. So you are able to here only just 1000 samples need to be transmitted, and decoder is able to decode, means I am just getting the output of this is 1000. I need to transmit 1000 samples, but here 10 power 6. So here if I transmit directly this particular sharing, I need to transmit 10 power 6 pixels. But if I perform this particular operation, and I need to transmit only 1000 pixels. But in decoding, content is also with me. Means initially I will train my CNN network or autoencoder network for the encoder and decoder combinedly. And when training is done, I will just cut this particular network into two pieces. And encoder I will keep at the sender side, and decoder I will keep at the receiver side. So once I perform this encoder dimension reduction procedure, that 1000 samples only will be transmitted to the Allahabad, and at a receiving side, means wherever you are, and at receiver, this decoding concept will be utilized, and using this decoding concept, you are able to see my screen. So as we are going up to 1K resolution, means 1000 by 1000 image size. So we need to process very efficiently. Otherwise, it takes a lot of time for the data transmission. And other part is that compression, image compression or data compression while storing. So you are storing this data in the hard disk. So in a hard disk, so when you are storing this content, instead of storing directly, you apply some this encoding concept, and you store that with less data you store here. And when I'm double clicking on that particular data, if I want to open any PDF file, so I will just double click on that, and once I double that, immediately decoding concept will be applied, and then content will be displayed. So this is also kind of autoencoders. Here it uses all compression problems can be handled using autoencoders. Okay, So that is the advantage of using unsupervised learning procedure for regeneration of input at output. So that is the advantage. Now coming to the another application for the autoencoders is the image denoising. So here it can be run, this particular procedure can be executed, means trained in learning, means supervised learning procedure. Let's say this is my input and this is my ground truth. With this I will train my network while training, and then testing case I will use another testing sample where noise present as input, and I will collect the denoised images output. So now this entire denoising concept can be can be converted. Now it is converted as autoencoders based data generation, which is nothing but data restoration here. Okay. So like that you can able to handle this autoencoder, means you can use this autoencoder for other applications also. And autoencoders again UNet architecture. Here means it is a dimension reduction content, and this is a expansion or decoding. This is an encoder, this is an decoder. So actually this UNet architecture is well known for image semantic segmentation, and this was proposed initially for medical image segmentation. Medically it was participated in one challenge, and brain MRI tumor segmentation, and there they have proposed this algorithm, which is encode and decoding kind of concept using convolution neural network, and it is also performing very good, means able to give the better results. But now coming to, as of now, autoencoders are the best as per our discussion. Till date I have discussed autoencoders are the best. But in autoencoder, there are kind of drawbacks. Let me discuss those disadvantages and how can we address those problems using other methods. So here autoencoders having a drawback is that it is a kind of convolution network only. It's a encoder and decoder block is there, and it works based on the back propagation. It generally train this using back propagation algorithm. So generally we use L1 norm or L2 norm, like that kind of loss functions to go for the back propagation. But there is no kind of supervision on this particular data, whether it is generated data is appropriate or not. Apart from this loss calculation, we doesn't have any kind of supervision. So if we can perform that supervision, the data it means it can get the better results. At the same time, the convergence of this particular autoencoders are somewhat difficult. So it means further there is a chance to improve further level. Already CNN having better results when compared to handcrafted procedures, but still CNN having some, means this accuracy is not reaching up to the 100%. Still there is a scope to improve the accuracy. So that is the reason. Now if we can perform some kind of supervision on this particular data or response, definitely it can be improved. To address this kind of problems, generative adversarial networks have been proposed. So generative adversarial and networks, what is the meaning of this? So as I said, autoencoders are the generative models. Same manner, generative adversarial networks also, it is a generative model. That's why it is in of generative models, which are nothing but predictive models, which are nothing but regression models. So that's why we call it a generative. And adversarial means it is a trained based in adversarial settings. And how it is adversarial setting, I will explain in the later slides. Means there is a kind of supervision when some kind of opponent is there. So then we will say that it is kind of adversarial procedure for the learning. Okay. Okay. And here and that too, as we are using deep network or deep CNN networks for this particular procedure, then we call it as deep neural, and that's why network, generative adversarial networks. Okay, now we need to discuss why generative models are better. So in this, so we have only seen the discriminator models so far. Means, so actually in autoencoders case, we are not keeping any kind of supervision. But here with this, we can able to keep some kind of supervision. I will just explain that using some block diagram. Before that, let me see. Here, this is, let's say in this, we don't know which one is generated by GAN. Means, let's say if I'm giving even if I say this is the image you need to generate using some latent space or some kind of noise, so as input, then it is generated like this. If you see, means both are almost same only. Means I am saying that I wanted to say from this is that generative adversarial networks are able to improve the accuracy or generation concept, the accuracy up to the level of commercial applications or real world applications. Now accuracy is beyond 90% or 95%, so that it can be applicable for all commercial applications. Okay. Now coming to the example case, let's say here I am giving this is the input. I am just saying that so this like this. If I give this kind of sketch, I am able to generate these outputs, greenery. And then if I give this kind of apart from this green line, if I'm giving this kind of line, it is generating mountains. But here I did not specify that what should be the color of the sky. But if I specify the color of sky is this one, so I'm able to get the same color. Like that, with your interest, you can able to generate the data with small sketches only. So, but don't think that how it will understand. Means don't think like how it will generate in your mind content, whatever you are thinking, how it can able to generate. So you need to train this your model for this particular application. You need to train. I will give some kind of sketch, and based on that sketch, you should able to get the this kind of. If I'm giving this kind of green shade, you should get greenery generation. If I give this kind of mountain shape, you should generate mountain. Like that, you should train this network. So that is the reason generative adversarial networks are very much helpful or useful for the now very specific applications, so that accuracy can reach up to the level of commercial or real world applications. Okay, so now so I will just explain this using network. Let's say it is having two modules, as I said, a generator and another one is a discriminator module. So it is now you can say this is a supervisor. So this, as I said, autoencoder doesn't have any supervision, but a discriminator is taking the role of supervisor role. So it is always trying to supervise whether generator is working appropriate or not. It always tries to highlight the mistakes of generator. So that is a kind of procedure. Here I am giving some input to the generator, and let's say my target, like as I said, greenery generation. Here I will keep all uh, greenery data or natural data, so that I can understand that when I give some kind of sketch like this one mountain, since this natural photographs, mountain photographs are there, and based on that, it understands that I need to generate the natural data which is similar to the real world data which present in this particular uh, training. So this way it can understand. So generator is there. What generator will do? Generator, it will perform some kind of transformations. In place here you can consider as an autoencoder as a generator. What autoencoder network you can keep here. Discriminator is a supervisor. Supervisor is a kind of classifier. Don't confuse with the sentence that discriminator is a classifier. So so then as I specify that GANs are applicable for only regression problems, not for any classification problems. That particular point I already said. But don't confuse with this. A discriminator is a classifier, so that why can't we use it for classification? No, this is discriminatory just for supervision purpose. Supervision means it is just saying that whether your generator is predicting appropriately or not. That is only the point here. That is only the responsibility of discriminator. So what it will do, discriminator. So once you generate the output, that output will be given to the discriminator, and discriminator will say that whether this output is generated by generator or real world, because this sample x is also given one time, and g of z is also, g of z is nothing but generated by the generator. G of z will also be the given. So when I give g of z as input to the discriminator, so if discriminator says that this particular g of z means whatever input is coming to me, so that is coming from the generator. If it can able to say, then the discriminator is able to identify that this output is coming from the generator, not from the real world. So immediately the task of generator is that it should able to task of generator is that it should generate the samples output or data output in such a manner it can fool the discriminator. Means the generator should able to generate the content in appropriate manner where which exactly looks like a real world content. Real world images where I am keeping here, it should generate exactly like that. So that is the task. So when this way, this kind of learning, this kind of procedure supervision is going on, so discriminator is taking the kind of real or fake. Fake is nothing but it is fake, meaning is that if it's classifies as a fake, it means that that input, whatever the input is coming to the discriminator, so that is coming from generator. Discriminator is saying this sentence. Okay. And if discriminator output is coming as a real, which means that from this it can it is saying that whatever input is coming to me, that is coming from the real world data, not from the generator. So that is the meaning. So if generator can able to generate which is exactly similar to the real world data, so that it can able to fool the discriminator, so that discriminator can understand that this output is, this input is coming from the real world. This is the main task. So because of this procedure, we can call it as some supervisor is present in this. And I will explain how it is adversarial manner. How it is adversarial manner means like initial, let me explain how this training procedure generally starts with initial random weights. What we generally do, first I need to strengthen the discriminator so that whenever input is coming from the real world, it should say real, and when it is coming from the generator, it should say fake. So I should make this, I should strengthen the discriminator which can able to differentiate this particular input from where it is coming. So that's why what we will do, we will log the generator first. So log the generator weights means don't perform any back propagation algorithm on the generator network. You perform only back propagation on the discriminator network, and it should say that it should able to differentiate whatever the input is coming, whether it is coming from the generator or it is coming from the real world data. So if it can able to, once it if it done for maybe few epochs, for n number of n1 of epochs, n1 number of epochs, once it is done, so then we need to log the discriminator, because the discriminator can able to discriminate easily. Yes, this output, this input is coming from generator, as this input is coming from real world. If it can able to say, so then immediately then we can say that discriminator is strengthened enough to identify this particular case. Okay. Okay. So once it is done, immediately we will log the discriminator. Immediately we will log the discriminator and we will apply the back propagation on the generator. Reason is that discriminator is strengthened enough already. Now we need to improve the strength of generator. That's why we will log the discriminator and then apply the back propagation to the generator. Okay. So once it is performed, generator is also able to improve for some extent. Once this particular task is over, so then immediately task is that both will be unlocked. So here this will also be unlocked. So this lock will be removed, and immediately both will be applying back propagation, applying on generator network, as well as back propagation applying on the discriminator network together. So that is the reason now we call it as adversarial procedure. So discriminator is always trying to identify the mistakes of the generator. Generator is always trying to ignore or trying to fool the discriminator. That's why this is kind of some opponent is present in this. That's why we call it as adversarial learning procedure. So that is the reason we call this as a generative adversarial networks. Now coming to the optimization, coming to the loss functions or objective function of the this particular GAN is that, as I said, discriminator is D and generator G. So discriminator is always trying to highlight the mistakes. Means it is a negative minded person, you can say. So discriminator is always kind of highlighting the mistakes of generator. So that's why discriminator is a negative minded person. So that's why in the loss function it is always trying to increase the loss. It is always trying to highlight the losses, so that it is a kind of maximization problem. but generator is a positive minded person. So whatever the points or whatever the mistakes identify the discriminator, it is taking very positively and trying to remove them, trying to ignore them. Means it will try to reduce those losses. That's why we call it as a minimization problem. So generator is a minimization problem and the discriminator is a maximization problem. So from this we can get it. So and then so here if I write the objective function, so I can write d of x and then 1 minus d of g of z. So here I am just trying to get the loss, saying that this is x is nothing but real world input and z is the noise and the g of z is generated output. Both we are giving input to the both we are giving as input to the discriminator. Okay, now here 1 minus we use, and why we have not used 1 minus, why we did this, I will explain in the after some time. And the log is also used just for the data variation should be, means like if d of x is coming 1 or maybe some numbers, means so point is that even small variation in the input, there should not be large variation in the output. There should not be the case. It should be small variation only. So log is nothing but it's a kind of drastic variations can be decreased to certain range, like log base 10 or log base 2 or log base c, whatever you want, you can use this. So based on that, this log is just for the content should not be large variations. That is the reason we are using log here. So apart from that, there is no particular content. And why d of x and 1 minus d of g of z applied here. So let me explain for that. You understand one thing, when I give x is input to the discriminator, x is a real word, so that it will say that real, real. So I'm just naming this as label is 1. And if I'm giving discriminator is input g of z as input to the discriminator, it is a fake, which means it should give 0. So I'm just labeling real as 1 and fake as 0. So once I perform this kind of labeling, so now let me check here. So let's say here when I give x is input, discriminator should, if let me say discriminator is very strong discriminator, means it can able to give appropriate outputs. So d of x will be coming 1. So it will be log of 1, which is equal to 0. So this total term is become 0. And then when I apply here directly g of z, so means 1 minus why it is coming, I am explaining here, please understand. So if I keep 1 minus, so d of g of z, as I said, the discriminator is very strong. So this will be, it simply says 0 because it says input is coming from generator. So that's why 0 is coming. And here also log 1 is there. So which is equal to 0. As I said, discriminator is very strong. Further, no need to optimize, no need to apply back propagation on this. This is the meaning. Okay. So that is the reason. If I don't keep 1 minus here, what happens? Again log 0 is coming. So that is not appropriate. That is the reason we kept 1 minus. That is the reason. Okay. So let me take in opposite direction. Discriminator is very bad. Let's say it is very bad. In that case, opposite answer will come. That's in that log of d of x. So this will be actually 1, but it will give 0 because I said it is very bad. So log 0 and some epsilon content will be there. Generally in this particular coding, it will be 10 power minus 12 something we are using here. So epsilon value equal to 10 power minus 12. So it is not 0, it is 10 power minus 12 as you are going. Some content need to be coming. So it should be back propagated. Similarly, as I said, as it is very bad, this instead of 0, it will come 1. Again 1 minus 1, 0 you are getting. Again epsilon will be added here. Because of that, again this is also back propagated. Means, yes, it is very bad, some instead of 0, some another content is coming, that should be back propagated back to the, that will be back propagated to the discriminator network so that it can be improved. So and now coming to, as I said, this is a objective function, and the derivative of that will be discriminator loss. And now coming to the generator loss optimization, we are taking this one only. So but once you take this further, you are coming again, the vanishing gradient strikes again. Reason is that when you perform this operation in this 1 minus d model, it is working inappropriately. So to avoid this problem, what we take, derivative of this is this. Once you apply, let me take this is a log of x. Let me take this particular entire portion is as x, but it is a sigmoid function, is a activation function only, because x is nothing but this particular operation is performing in the activation. That's why I am just naming it as sigma. Now if I differentiate this with respect to weights, all these particular things, though it is like log 1 minus 1 by x into derivative of that. Derivative of x is nothing but sigma here. This is coming here. So in 1 minus is there, that's why minus term is coming here. So derivative of sigma is, if you take it is a sigmoid activation function, so that time you are getting sigma into 1 minus sigma. If you need more understanding that, you just get the derivative of sigmoid function. So you are getting it is equivalent to sigmoid into 1 minus sigmoid. That only you are getting. So once I simplify this, both are going off. Ultimately, you are getting this. What is this? This I assume as this one. Initially, I consider this particular portion as sigma, or entire portion. Even you take it, you will get same answer only. Okay. So once you make this, so this is the case. Log of this, we are taking as the generator loss. And now coming to the advantages of this particular procedure generator model. It is a straightforward procedure where generation is there, and there is a kind of supervisor procedure with a discriminator, and here it is not performing any maximum likelihood estimation, where here we are going with some kind of supervision, kind of classification we are keeping on the at the discriminator end by saying that whether it is real or fake. And overfitting relatively very less, means overfitting issue when compared to autoencoders, it is less, but still it is not removed total, it is not removing. So it can be even further, it can be researched for decreasing overfitting problem, but it is robust when compared to autoencoders. And empirical GANs are good at capturing the modes of the distribution. As a results point of view and experimentally, it has been proved that generative adversarial networks are performing better when compared to simple autoencoders. Autoencoders means without discriminator. That's all. And one more thing, you please understand that discriminator is present only at the time of training, doesn't present at the testing. Once it is trained with a discriminator, simply at the time of testing, discriminator will be discarded, and we will get the output only from the generator. Okay. Now problems with GANs are here also some convergence problem is there. It may not means it is better than autoencoders, but still convergence issue is there. So that can be addressed further. Please mute yourself. Megha Gupta, please mute yourself. Okay. And then model collapse may be there. It can collapse. This model can be collapsed due to some random weights where as it is not appropriate. When let's see here, this is the case, but when it is trying, it is generating this kind of case. You can say it is a kind of model collapse. So in the same manner, this is the kind of data needs to be generated, but it is generating like this. In the same manner, this is also the case. Okay. Some real examples how model has been disturbed or collapsed. And now solutions to solve these issues are mini batch size. Means batch size try to keep as low as possible. If you keep batch size more, this kind of problems occurs. And the other thing is supervision with labels. So as I explained in that, instead of going only with real or fake, you can go with another labels, fake, and other than that, other classes. If you can keep, I think you can get the better accuracy, but very less. Even I did not see many any publications with this kind of concept, but people said this can be the case. So, but very few publications, maybe one or two are there, and you can go through them if you want. Now coming to alternate views of GANs, means this one. Yeah, you may think that as I explained, real equal to 1 and fake equal to 0. So corresponding objective functions and loss functions, backpropagation case loss functions are here. But if you want to take oppositely, so why I want to take fake equal to 0? I will take fake equal to 1. Yes, you can take, and you draw the objective function or optimization functions, loss functions will be updated, or functions will be in that fashion only. Even that's the reason why I said in my in that objective function case, why we are keeping 1 minus, and why not we are keeping other place 1 minus, that we have explained. Same manner you just apply here and you will get this particular objective function. And these are the similar manner loss functions updating if you want to go in opposite direction. Now coming to the applications case, image to image translation, text to image synthesis, face aging, like so many applications you can get. Image translation is good application. Add videos also, you can apply same thing on videos also. Okay, so here image to image translation, just some examples I have shown here. Yes, this is the semantic segmentation case. If I'm having this is the input, I can get this kind of output. Means while training, I have given the network task is that I will give this kind of segmented mass as input, and you generate the real world natural scenes from there. That is the task I have trained, and even not only this, in vice versa, it can perform. You can train this network this one as input, and semantic segmented mass generation as can be considered as a ground truth. Based on that, you can get the output. So whichever your task you are giving to the network, it will work. If you work for the semantic segmentation, you need to give this content as input, and you will get this content as the output. But if you are taking this one this to this procedure, you can take that. Similarly, input this kind of mask I am giving, and this is the kind of output. Or even you can go in other direction also. So, and coming to the image processing, you might have studied that, which so very problematic and not possible one is this one, like black and white image, which is nothing but grayscale image to color image generation. This is actually not possible. Means grayscale to uh, color image conversion, but here it is based on the predictive concept. It is possible, but this is very easy. This is no need to go for RGB to grayscale conversion. No need of any transformations. But this to this, we need appropriate prediction algorithm so that it can give the appropriate results. And another one is Google Maps with only map or kind of buildings also, structures. So you can generate in other directions also. Similarly, day to night or night to day, or similar to winter to summer and summer to winter, the data also can be generated. Whatever the input you are means, you have to train in that fashion only. Now coming to the bags case, it is very much useful for leather industry. So earlier people like that person used to take the CAD CAM softwares, and he will design the model, and then it will be shown to the people in the factory, and they will fabricate that particular shape, that particular model. But here, if you use generative models, so you can generate. He will just draw a sketch. This kind of sketch just he is drawing. So, and he is giving this input, and it can generate n number of combinations with different variations or versions, so that whichever is appropriate, that can be picked, and that can be given for the manufacturing. So this is the very much useful application, not only in leather industry. You can go for any kind of fashion or entertainment field where you can utilize this kind of concepts. And now coming to face aging. So I think everyone knows that Face app is very popular, where it gives the, if you give your photograph, it generates how you look after 10 years or at the age of 60 plus. So this is the person, he is the person, and current and after 60 plus how he looks. This is the output. So like that you are getting the some kind of predictions. So these are also performing. These are also happen based on the generative adversarial networks only. And up till now, I have discussed about the all basics of that, and now I am going to discuss about the one of our work where we publish this work in the CVPR workshop. So this is RIGAN, an end-to-end network for single image phase removal. This we participated in 2019. Even latest publication is also there on this phase removal task. And if you want to go through them, you just go to my website and you just follow them. You can get those papers, latest papers. So here we have participated in the NTIRE image dehazing competition. So actually in this competition around 270 labs were participated, and so out of these 270 only 23 labs were in the final round. And then in that final round we secured 10th rank internationally and first rank within the India. If when we compare ourselves, we are at top. So so this is the competition, and from this we got this publication in the CVPRW. Yes, the title of this one. And now coming to the how we deal this generative adversarial network for the single image haze removal or fog removal task. So before starting this, I just need to give brief explanation how image acquisition or image collection performs. Let's say this is the scene or this is the object I need to capture using camera. This is the camera. So there will be a light source. Light will be fall onto this object and it will start reflecting. It is started reflecting this way, and it is moving towards the. When it is reflected, if you keep your camera sensor within that line of sight, you are able to capture that photograph. Okay. So, but it is not immediately when I am collecting the photograph. This is the object and this is the camera I located for the capturing the data. So it needs to transmit that. Aniket Pal, please mute yourself. Aniket Pal. Okay. So it needs to transmit for a certain distance of d. So that too, this is a medium of air. It's, Aniket Pal. Aniket. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Here this is the. I think he is not listening anything this lecture. Even whatever I am speaking, he is not able to hear, means he is not attending. Okay. So this it needs to transmit a certain distance d. So then only it can able to capture. So as it is transmitting, so in this air medium there are unwanted means even dust particles may be there, and water particles, which is nothing but fog. Those particles may present in that, and well, let's say here one particle is there in this location, and this particular reflected light is coming like this, and it will strike here. Once it is striking, that reflected light energy, it will lose for some extent, and that particular energy will be absorbed by that particular particle. This particle will be absorbed, means it is kind of attenuation. So then it will start moving towards the camera sensor. So it will move, but this energy will be lesser than the actual, because this particular particle is absorbed. So that is the reason camera sensor is not reaching, camera sensor is not getting the uh, appropriate exact scene whichever is reflected from the object. Exact content whichever is reflected from the object, it is not reaching to the camera sensor. So that is the reason you are not able to get the appropriate image. Aniket Pal. Hello, Aniket Pal. Hello.
Hello, am I audible, Murala?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, sir, I think who is this Aniket for? Either he should mute and then he can sing the song, or after that 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I will keep a buffer time so that he can speak that time, or he can sing a song. I will try to finish my lecture in 5 minutes before. Then we will ask him. Okay. So as it is need to transmit the data for within the medium. So as here some attenuation happened, so that is just going to. Yes, sir. Sir, am I audible?
Just we are facing network problem at Triple IT, so just I was checking here. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Am I audible now? Hello.
Audible. Yes,
Okay.
audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. So here it is not reaching. That's why as it is inversely proportional to the distance, j into j is this actual scene, and it is the t is, needs to transmit how much distance. So it is a kind of transmittance how much. And again, once this light, I mean, this particular particle absorbing the energy of this reflected light, again it will also behave like a local light sources, and that content will also transmit towards the camera sensor. So that's why we call it as, that is atmospheric light 1 minus a into t. So t is the it is a transmittance or transfer map. It is the case. So this is the case. Transmission line means like a transmission map. This is the case, and this is the representation how we are getting the hazy image or foggy image from the actual scene. So let's say this is a J clean image, but due to this we are getting this kind of foggy image or hazy image. Okay, and this is the transmission map. Transmission map means this particular portion having enough transmission, but this portion it is very poor transmission is there. That's why we are not able to see it appropriately. Okay, now coming, but this is optical model how image acquisition is performed, but we are going to solve, or we are going to restore the data using deep learning, especially generative adversarial networks here. So that's why we are assuming here one assumption is that atmospheric model can be modeled in end-to-end deep network. This is assumption, and with this we are results are coming. So this is a kind of assumption that we can model it, and availability of dense pair training data is required because you need hazy image and corresponding ground truth should be required here. So that's why generally in real world scenes, either you are having clean image or hazy image, but corresponding ground truths are not with you. So that's why what generally we do here, we take the clean image and we will add haze or fog synthetically on that, and we will perform. We will go for training on this. And now coming to the contributions case, we have developed an end-to-end network in generative adversarial network. And RI-GAN, it means it uses the residual and inception blocks in this network. That is the reason we named it as RI-GAN. And it is a novel generator network using residual and inception modules. And here again, we have developed our own discriminator network is designed using dense connections in the residual block. And a combination of structural similarity and SSIM loss is also, along with the edge loss, is proposed here. Also L1 loss already means everyone using, but along with this L1 and generate GAN loss, we have used SSIM loss and edge loss for this. So these are the contributions for this work. And this is the network like architecture. So this particular portion is a generator. So this is a generator, and this is a discriminator. So this is a discriminator and this is a generator. Now see here, this is hazy image as input and output is this one. And discriminator needs to check whether this output is coming from the generator or coming from the ground truth. Like that it needs to perform. And this individual discussion, everything I have provided here. If you want to get more knowledge, you go through my paper. And that to coming to the training procedure, how we did. Here training procedure we performed, proposed are again like as we participated in the competition, we need to follow the protocol given by the organizers. So here NTI means they have provided 45 images for training in that challenge, and along with that we are having 35 images for 2018 challenge data set. Total 80 images are with us. Along with that, 100 synthetically hazy images we generated on NYU depth data set. It is available, and 8 is entire challenge data sets. Together we have considered for the training of our network, and remaining settings are followed with reference number 19. It is a base paper for generative adversarial network pix to pix. And we have trained on this particular configuration of my PC. So Core i7 processor with NVIDIA GTX 1080 8GB GPU. Coming to the experimental results, here in testing case, we are not providing anything with this quantitative results. In testing case, they have released some images. I think 5 to 10 images they have released. And what our task is that we need to get the outputs of these 5 images, and those 5 images outputs only we have uploaded into this website. In that particular organizer's website, and they have calculated this PSNR and SSM values. Okay, so now they have given the ranking based on the PSNR. So see here, ours is this one, Maha IIT. This is ours, and we are at 10th rank, 10th position. And Fastnet, it is MIT Lincoln Lab also participated in this, and their PSNR is less when compared to ours, but SSM theirs is best. But we can say we are we can say 10th rank, or both maybe 10th rank, that can be considered. And apart from this, this is the from IIT Madras and some other also there, but they have not given name as IIT. That's why we're not able to identify them. Some other participants, other labs also there from ISC Bangalore and ISA Kolkata. So here this is when we see here the no one from India. From top 9, no one from India, and top 10, this is ours from India. And now coming to the experimental results, it is a very dense haze for haze removal task. This is the input image, and these are the outputs using existing methods, existing top applications like this transactions on pattern analysis and machine intelligence 2011, WCV 18. This is our paper only. CVPR 18 and ICCV 17 we have compared, and this is our results. So these are the results. Even this ground truth is not with us. This is the output only. Ground truth is not with us. This is the output we have provided here. Whatever output we got. Okay. So other thing is that this is also similarly another image. These are the results from existing methods, and this is the result with our method. So you can see how our method is able to give very good results when compared to other existing methods, even on very dense haze cases. Okay. So again, we thought, we felt that so these are all training and testing results given by the organizers, and we thought, why can't we test this kind of experiments, this kind of content on the real world data? So we just downloaded one image from the internet. This is the image which is downloaded from the internet, and we have checked the results with existing methods. These are the existing methods results, and this is our. So you can clearly understand that how our method is best. Still, there are kind of disturbances, discontinuities at these locations, like some kind of noise is present, but visibility point of view, ours is much better when compared to other existing methods. And similarly, we have taken very dense photograph, dense haze photograph from the internet only. And this is also, these are the results with existing methods where existing method fails to get the good results, but this is our results. So see here, visibility we can able to improve. See here, backside I am not able to see here, but I can able to see this backside content. This is the portion I am not able to see in the input, but I am able to see here. So from this we can clearly say that our proposed method is not overfitting happened. It can able to, so it can able to work for other real world data also. Okay, and now coming to the conclusion. In this work, we have proposed haze removal task using residual and inception blocks, and we have followed the protocol procedure whichever is given by the organizers, and the results are showing when compared to other existing methods, ours is showing better. Okay, and now overall conclusion and takeaway point for this lecture is that autoencoders or generative adversarial networks are the state-of-the-art models for any kind of regression problems. If you want to do any research in the side of regression issues, I think you should opt. You should learn immediately learn about this, how to handle these GANs and how to work. If you delay this, people will are working very aggressively and they are getting so many publications. After some time this will also be saturated, or some next version may come even. So that's why I would suggest, if you want to do any kind of research in regression problems, immediately you jump into GANs. But I'm not saying that immediately jump only on GAN. You need to have the knowledge of previous concepts before GAN. That is the reason I have explained here autoencoders. Okay, with this yes sir.
Would like to take one or two,
Yes, sir.
so
Yes, sir, no problem, sir. I am ready. And even Aniket Pal, if he is there, we can ask him to. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I am ready to take. Yes, sir, yes, sir. Any questions? Any questions? So I think some little issue in my audio connect, that is not because. Yes, sir.
would like to hello.
Okay. Yes, sir. I think no questions from audience.
For giving my talk on this generative adversarial and the use of this generative adversarial to from my understanding. Is there any way to clear this?
Sir, actually you are not audible. Sir, you are not audible actually. Your voice is breaking.
This is the problem that we are facing.
I think now I can hear you, sir. Just ask, sir, what you are asking.
If we are doing some haze removal, that how
Again, same problem, sir. I think we will talk later when internet is appropriate, or over the phone we will discuss at this point.
Oh, thank you for giving valuable time and
No
discussing all
problem.
these things.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Okay, thank you so
Sorry
much.
for some
Okay.
disturb. Yeah,
No problem. Generally it happens, sir. It is quite common.
Okay. This is
Okay,
the
sir.
problem
Thank you
of
so much.
what this online. Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you for giving me valuable time. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you all participants. And now I'm leaving. Thank you.